What's up and welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year, it's JVceo. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, I have the best channel on YouTube. But who am I to say anything? Let's keep driving the subscribe. Let's keep driving the subscriber count to 10,000 subscribers, hopefully by December this year, 2021. Anyways, look. A few weeks ago, I started a new segment called JVceo Answers, and that's exactly what we're doing today, answering. So the two questions we're working on today, first one being how I find stocks in general, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of people have been asking this question. Today's question was from I think Danny PTLG or something along those lines. Anyways, alongside a whole host of other people that have been asking. So I'm definitely addressing that for you guys today, and you can take some learning from that. And then moving on, we're going to also talk about, I'm also going to answer a question for someone who is in debt. I would ask some questions of them, and I'll probably ask them to email me at a later stage, see if I can help them in any way, shape or form in terms of some sort of a plan or strategy to actually get rid of that debt. They're in a huge amount of debt, £77,000 to be precise. Anyways, on to the first one. How do I find stocks in general? So, keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it snappy. First one being, I have a bunch of good stock people around me. I have partners that have £1 million, £500,000, £2 million in stock. And sometimes they'll hit me up and say, oh bro, this, you know, have you checked into this company? Have you checked into that company? Or I might even hit them up with a stock that I'm currently researching, and I'll say, what do you think about this? And they would help me validate my research on that particular stock. Or it may be that I don't really have the time and they've done all the charting on the stock. So I'll tell them, bro, send me all the levels on the stock, send me the Fibonacci retracements on the stock. They'll send it over to me. That way I sort of know what levels to go into, what levels to sell into, and so on and so forth. So that's one way that I find stock. The second way that I find stock is I've put together a small team of people and I've created a group chat for us. I created a rule in that group chat. You never, ever, if you're watching this, you guys know, you never send no stocks on the group chat until you've done your own due diligence. Don't go off the hype, right? Don't go off, oh, social media says this hot, or oh, this group says that's hot, or oh, that person says that's hot. No. Check to make sure that you're happy to invest in that stock and then bring it onto the group chat, share it with the group chat members. And when you do this, people would obviously have questions for you, and then as long as you're able to answer those questions to the best of your ability, then that way it helps other people in the group chat make an informed decision. And that way myself, for example, I don't have to go kill my brain trying to research this particular stock. I could make an informed decision off the partners in the group chat because I know that they've done their due diligence and I've given them the right guidance with regards to going about doing their due diligence. Right. The next way that I find stock is I look for sentiments and I look for similarities. So an example being, if pharmaceutical companies are hot this week, generally speaking, it wouldn't be one pharmaceutical company. One pharmaceutical company may go up, let's say 400-500%. But then you would also see sentiments. Alongside that, you would see other pharmaceutical companies going up 50%, going up 70%. Sometimes I don't even trade the big ones having the biggest jump. I would go look for the sentiments, other playoffs that would benefit from the limelight from that main sort of company. And those are the companies that I would go and invest in and have a quick flip on. I'll give you another example of this. So for example, Bitcoin has been going up massively the last few weeks or even months. And what's been happening is companies that are mining Bitcoin have also been benefiting in terms of, like I said, sentiment. They've been benefiting from the fact that Bitcoin's going up, and they've also been going up. I'll give you an example. PHUN, that's fun. BTBT has been going up. PHUN, I made a lot of money on that. On BTBT, my partners made a lot of money on that. And that's literally just being able to find a trend or find a stock that's doing well and trade off the sentiment of that, because it would always trickle down to a whole host of other stocks. Be very careful when you do this, because sometimes you can get it wrong. It doesn't always trickle to that whole sort of category. So be careful when you do this. By the way, ignore my dogs in the background. They might be having a fight, so they're barking right now. The next way that I do this is, again, back to trends. I look within trends, and then I try and find other companies that may be supporting that particular trend. I'll give you an example, right? So let's say I'm looking at EV companies now. Everyone goes for Tesla, but no, I would probably go look at, let's say, an Ideanomics that facilitates EV companies. Because then if a major company is looking to purchase electric vehicles, electric buses in a large quantity, they're rarely ever going to go directly to Tesla. They're always looking for a middleman to broker a deal for them. So that's where Ideanomic comes in, for example. Or I would go look at maybe a company that produces hydrogen fuel for maybe one of the bigger EV manufacturers, for example. Or maybe a company that assembles EV vehicles for the bigger manufacturer, for example. Or a company like what is it called? Foresight Autonomous. I believe they produce it's an Israeli company, and they basically produce like autonomous driving technology. So that's massive. So if the EV is hot, most people will just go to the main names, but no, you need to look at other players within that field that facilitate the adoption of EV vehicles. So that's how I do my research. How else do I find hot stocks? I read a fair amount of news just with regards to stock in general. So in the morning, sort of like the first hour, I'd read some good news, and I try and get in to a stock before, in my opinion, it becomes hot. I try and get in on the floor. So an example being, there's so many news that will come out about, let's say, Fisker. And it's not even out there in the public domain. Like, it's there, but people are just not looking for it. So now I've gone into Fisker, because in my opinion, it's at the bottom now. When I shot this video, Fisker was around, at the point of me shooting this video, Fisker is around, I think, $14.50, something along those lines. And in my opinion, that's around the floor. So I've got into it now. I'm probably going to ride it to like $20 or maybe $22. So that's another way that I find stocks. And then sometimes I find stocks on negative sentiment. So an example being, let's look at Boohoo, for example. When Boohoo had a major sell-off, there was no reason for them to have a major sell-off. It was a massive overreaction. And clearly, the market was oversold. So what I did was I got into Boohoo at that point. I put some money into, I think I put like £5,000 into Boohoo. I put some money into Boohoo because I knew, look, this stock has no reason to be sold off this much, and it's definitely going to recover. And so that's how I jumped in that, and I think over the next like 2 days, it started recovering quite simply. So that's another way that I find stocks. Oh, I have to give a shout out on Snapchat. Some of you Snapchatters do send me some plays as well, and I'll do some research into those and then jump on that as well. So that's another way that I find stocks. But yeah, generally speaking, I try and group stock. I never look at individual stocks. I look at a whole category of stocks, because like I said, one would rub off on another. And generally speaking, I'm looking for sectors. I try and spot the hottest sectors. It could be pharmaceutical this week. It could be COVID related companies this week. So an example being, I'll give you an example. So there's a company I posted on Snapchat called Galaxy. Their stock symbol is GAXY. I'm up 178% on that stock at the moment, right? Off a £5,000 investment, I'm currently sitting on 15,000 roughly. That stock, the reason why I got into it, because I realized, hold on, COVID is still here to stay. COVID isn't going anywhere. So the best thing to do is to get into COVID related stock. They facilitate the safe, what's the best way to say it? Essentially speaking, they help build COVID proof sort of structures for schools and like apps and all of that sort of stuff. You know, go look into the company. Honestly, it's a great company, and at the moment, you know, it's in the nickels. So I just thought, yeah, definitely a punt. Put £5,000 into it, and there you go. I was right on that punt. So yeah, that's another way I look for stocks. Some people would look at COVID and they'll just think pharmaceutical companies, but there's so many other ways other companies could benefit from COVID, away from the normal masks and stuff like that. There's so many other ways that other companies can benefit from COVID. But anyways, I think that's enough in terms of how I find hot stocks, and I hopefully that this helps you. And I've dropped a few stocks that I'm in this video anyways. Right, moving on from that. Who is this from? He's in a actually, I'm not going to say his name. He's in a £77,000 debt, and he wants to know how, you know, how. Essentially speaking, he was he was distressed when he got in touch with me, very distressed, and I missed I missed the previous messages, and when I got the message, we spoke briefly, because he tried to WhatsApp call me. I never answer WhatsApp, I'm sorry, not WhatsApp call, Snapchat call. I never answer Snapchat calls, but I answered that in particular when I saw the £77,000 debt. So first things being, firstly, bro, you need to, and by the way, you guys, it's a new year, you could apply this, you could scale it up or scale it down. Number one is you need to look at your debts, right? Look at your debts and see what debt is still costing you money, and try and pause that immediately. That's the first thing you need to do, because then that stops your overall debt increasing up and up and up. So if you have any interest, all of that stuff, you can get it paused 100%. Get in touch with the company. You're going to have to do a lot of calling, but that's the hard graft. Don't ignore it, right? If you ignore it, those red letters are not going to go anywhere. Moving on from that, I want you to then write down all your basic bills, because sometimes you could actually transfer money in the sense that you could be wasting £50 in X area on in your personal life, whereas there's a debt that could benefit massively from that £50. So that's the second way to deal with your debt. So look at all your outgoings and figure out what you can cut. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to get back in touch with these companies and start negotiating partial settlements. So you could owe £77,000 in debt, but in reality, these companies in general, in total, might be happy to settle for a third of that actual debt. So a third of it, if my maths is remotely correct, is somewhere probably in the region of like 25,000, 25,500 or so, 25,700. So there you go. You could settle a £77,000 debt for around 25,000. So get in touch with those companies and start negotiating a partial settlement. It definitely works. The reason being, a lot of these companies, or generally speaking, on most of these debts, there's a statutory limitation of 6 years. So after 6 years, they can't get their money. The debt is still there in the background, but it's not going to feature on any official sort of documents, credit profiles, and so on and so forth. So it's in the company's interest that they get that money before the 6 year period, because after 6 years they can't get a CCJ. They can't really do much to force you or to encourage you or threaten you to actually pay off the debt. So it's in their interests. That's why those partial settlements work a treat. Obviously, it kind of links back into your credit, but I'll try and not even talk about credit in this video. I'll try and just talk about getting rid of those debts. So that's the first 3 steps. I'm literally just thinking of this off my head, right? Remember, you ain't even started paying the debt. The next step, before you even start paying the debt, I want you to think of increasing your sources of income. Think of how you can make an extra £500 a month. It's not difficult, honestly. It's not difficult. You just have to think about your skills and see how you can monetize it. Right? So think of how you can make an extra £500 a month, because then if you can do that, that will go a long way. £500 a month equates to £6,000 a year, and if you have that sort of £25,000 debt, then really you're talking about 4 years and you're debt free, which is great. So that's that. Moving on from that, I don't want you to start thinking about paying off the bill or paying off the debts. There's 2 approaches that you could take. You could take the avalanche approach, or you could take the snowball approach. And so the avalanche approach, essentially speaking, takes your debt, chucks it on its head, and literally pays it from the biggest. You tackle the biggest, and then you go down and basically finish with the smallest. And that's a great way. That's probably how I tackle it, because you know I like challenges. I mean, I've never been in a crazy amount of debt or nothing. I think in uni I owed, you know, I can't even remember. But other than that, I've never been debt ridden to say that. So that's one way of doing it. But I think the avalanche approaches should only be reserved for those that are very strong-willed, strong-minded, and really know what they're doing and really know how to manage their finances. However, for most other people, you'd probably benefit from the avalanche approach, right? From the snowball approach. So snowball is the opposite of avalanche. You start with the smallest. It helps you build confidence, and eventually you go into paying off bigger debts and so on and so forth. So that's that. There's also, bear in mind, there's also all these other debt relief schemes and companies out there for you. So call up, I think, is it debt.org? I'm not too sure. if you're interested anyways, email me and I'll get you the links to that. So there's a whole load of debt reliefs out there, and they can, you know, take you through the process of getting some of your debts written off, and so on and so forth. So, you know, if you can't deal with it yourself, reach out, get some external help. That's the most important thing. That was the 5th point, I believe. And now moving on to the 6th, and in my opinion, I'll probably say final point. Like I said, this is just all off the dome. I may have missed things. 5th and final point, make sure you're not taking on any new debt. I don't care if you have to walk to work, right? Make sure you're not taking on any new debts, because that's the way, essentially speaking, all you're doing is you're replacing your debts. You're replacing your debts. So yeah, you end up paying off 5 grand, but you've taken on 5 grand worth of new debts whilst you were paying off the 5 grand. It's a no-brainer. So that's the most important thing. But to you, you know yourself, that sent me this question, never give up, keep pushing, and get creative, man. Get creative. It's not difficult. Get creative and have some self-control, right? So have some self-control. Start understanding needs and wants. If you don't need it, you don't need to get it. And most things in the needs section you probably don't even need, because you could do without it, right? Stop following social media, right? Stay within your lane and cut your suit according to your size, essentially speaking. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys. I love these JVceo answers. It's a great way of reaching out to you guys and answering questions that are being asked by a whole lot of people. But anyways, have a great year. Keep enjoying the content that we've got to put out. There's a lot more planned, believe it or not. And hopefully as we go forward, the production will get better. Appreciate you guys once again. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe.